I'm starting cancer rehab. In case you're wondering what that is, because probably like most of you, until my nurse mentioned it last week, I had no idea what that was. Turns out it's basically physiotherapy for people who have cancer to help them, one, deal with the symptoms, kind of like palliative care, and two, make sure that, they don't lose too much weight and help them regain weight, help them, once again, not lose too much muscle, and also, in most cases, regain muscle as a result of, everything they've been through. So, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I had my meeting. First, they asked me to go to the hospital for a blood test, which seems customary for any kind of doctor's appointment at this point. So went to the hospital for that, and then the rehab clinic was like a 5 minute walk from the hospital. So went there, waited for them to open up because turns out I was their first appointment of the day, and I got there early because I had the blood test at the hospital. So yeah, it turns out that when I got there, they weren't open yet. So anyway, wait for them to show up. Then after a while, I'm allowed to go inside, and then someone goes ahead and does all the basic stuff such as weigh me, measure me, does a scan of my body to determine exactly the muscle mass that I have. That way, as we're going through the progress of rebuilding my muscle and gaining more weight, we'll be able to see that with the scans, as well as same thing with the weight. I'm assuming my height won't change. That would be very surprising. But it does make sense to track everything else so we can see the progress. So once that was done, I went back to the room, waited for a while, and ended up meeting with a bunch of different people. So first of all, there was the nurse and the doctor. Then there was a physiotherapist, an ergotherapist, which is similar to physio but slightly different, as well as a nutritionist. So I have kind of a list here because there's a lot of information to cover. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. So it wasn't exactly in this order, but I'll present it in this order because it makes more sense. So doctor and nurse were just more basic overview of like here are the results of the tests we've done. Here are the issues that we've encountered, how we suggest treating them, and more general things like that. The ergotherapist and physiotherapist were more on the physical side. Physiotherapist was more like physically, like these are the exercises you're going to start doing in order to, rebuild your muscle mass. We did a bunch of different tests as well to test my strength and my balance and mobility and, just like how far I can walk in a certain amount of time, how winded I get going up and down stairs, practicing exercises so I know how to do them when I'm doing them at home, things like that. The biggest issue we encountered on that front was the fact that in the past, my doctor, my oncologist has mentioned that it's best to avoid, weightlifting, any kind of contact sport, basically anything where there's a risk of injuring myself. Because if I injure myself, we need to suspend the treatments while my body heals. And given the situation, that's something we want to avoid. So he just said, like, avoid weightlifting as much as possible, especially heavy weights. So I did ask in the past a couple months ago when I did start training again before, all the breathing issues and coughing came back. And I asked about the exercise bands and he's like, yeah, okay, that's not an issue. So I know I can do that. So for now, until I can speak to him at my next meeting in about 2 weeks, they gave me exercises. In fact, I have a full list here of exercises that I can do with the resistance bands. That way I can at least get the process going. And then once I speak to him, I can ask him like, all right, is there a max weight that I can lift? What kind of exercises can I do? Is it full body? Do I have to be sitting down? Can I be standing up? How does that work? So for now, we're kind of starting more basic. Plus, I'm super ripped and strong by now, so I probably can't handle that much weight anyway. So resistance band seems like a good way to get started. So yeah, that was more like on the ergotherapist front, and sorry, physiotherapist front. Ergotherapist. Also, we did a few different tests like that, but it's more about honestly, like the two to me seem very, very similar. I'm not quite sure exactly the difference. But for her, it's more about like everyday mobility, being able to, go through your days and not having to struggle, not having any issues, just being comfortable, basically well-being. So yes, most of that is physical, but it could also, be other stuff. So, it's more general, whereas physiotherapy seems more focused on the body itself. And then the nutritionist obviously focused on diet. I'll be honest, she didn't really have that many suggestions for me simply because, I've already spoken to nutritionists in the past and I used to work out. I've always eaten relatively healthily. I know it's important for me to regain weight. So, I know my body pretty well. I understand the situation. I know it's important to try to maximize calorie intakes, what time of the day my body can handle more food, less food, stuff like that. So I kind of more explained the situation. She asked a couple questions. She did give me a list of, types of foods that contain higher calories. So I'm going to take a look at that. But overall, she didn't really have any specific suggestions, or like we didn't come up with a diet plan or anything like that. It was more like, general things, and we'll monitor that as time goes on. So, when it comes to my meeting with the doctor and the nurse, that's when I learned a few things. First of all, turns out that my testosterone level is low, not dramatically, but he would like me to start taking, supplements for that to boost the testosterone. So we're going to do that for a while. And turns out that there's also inflammation in my body. I'm assuming there's some a little in my head still as a result of the radiotherapy. I mean, from what I've seen, that takes a long time to completely go away. Like it's gotten to the point where it's not an issue, but there's definitely inflammation there. But it seems more like a general thing. It's like I have general inflammation in my body, and which is something we want to try to avoid because that kind of like drains the energy and keeps you one from being fully rested, and that's one of the issues I have. Every morning when I wake up, I never feel fully rested. Like, yes, I've slept enough that I have enough energy to do what I need to do throughout the day, but I never wake up feeling fully rested. So that should hopefully help for that, as well as, just health in general. And also to help rebuild muscle, it's best if we avoid inflammation. And the final thing is I have a little bit of anemia at the moment. It's never been an issue in the past, wasn't detected, so I'm assuming it's something relatively new, and it's very mild, so not really something to worry about that much. It's just something that I learned. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'll start taking testosterone supplements to boost that a bit, anti-inflammatories just to reduce the inflammation in the body, as well as protein powder to boost muscle growth and just allow me to gain more weight in general. The thing is, like, this is not normal, like, whey protein or protein that, most athletes would buy or take or you can order online or stuff like that. It's stuff specifically that you get for people in my situation. You get it at the pharmacy with a prescription. So, very much more specific. But that's kind of the overall picture. So for now, it's like, all right, let's just start slow with the exercise bands. Let's do that for the next couple weeks until I see my doctor. Then once I have, his answer of yes, I can work out, how much can I work out, how heavy can I lift, what exercises can I do, stuff like that, then we can kind of adjust that plan. Eating wise is just a question of eating as much as I can, trying to maximize the amount of calories. So basically, like instead of eating in, like I could eat apples all day as an example. And it's like, okay, my stomach would be full. I eat a lot, but I wouldn't be gaining that many calories because there's not that many calories in apples. Definitely good for digestion and, to not have constipation and stuff like that. But it's just like, I know it's important to make sure to have enough protein, enough fat, and enough high calorie foods to make sure that I'm slowly continuing to gain weight. And protein is also very important. That's why they gave me that protein powder. So I can really start rebuilding the muscle. That's the most important thing. So yeah, continue walking 5 kilometers every day, more if possible. The the physiotherapist also recommended, like, if you have stairs in your apartment or building or whatever, like have access to stairs, like, start going up and down stairs. That will also definitely help. Especially now until I know what exercise I can do, because If I can do squats and stuff like that, okay, that's really going to help for the leg muscles. But until I know if I can do that, the stairs would be a very good way to start rebuilding that muscle and really practicing that. So that's pretty much an overview of everything. My next meeting hasn't been scheduled. They're going to call me to schedule that, but it's going to be in about 4 to 6 weeks. And that seems to be the timeline that they usually give. That way, every time we need to do changes and shifts, it allows time for really us to see the results and my body to start responding. That way, we know if we're doing the right thing or we need to adjust once again. So it seems like for now, that's pretty much the overall strategy we're going with. And it's definitely good because I was waiting, like the walking has helped a lot in terms of appetite, in terms of sleeping, just overall. And I was waiting till I got back to the point where I'm breathing well enough and I'm not coughing as much that I could start exercising again. And, with their help, their support, their recommendations, I can slowly start doing that. So I'm really happy that we were able to begin that. And I'm also a little surprised because from what I was told, could be months before they contact me. And, within a couple weeks, I already had the meeting and we're already beginning everything. So it's definitely a good update. And it's just funny that like literally a couple weeks ago I had no clue what cancer rehab was, and now it's like here I am speaking to all those people, planning all these things, adjusting, everything that I'm doing at the moment, which is definitely good. And that's always been my goal. Like since the past month, since I started walking again, my goal was just like, all right, let's get myself back into shape. Not in the shape like, I physically look like, I'm ripped or whatever. Like, yes, eventually it would be nice to get back to that. But for now, that's not the goal. It's just like regaining weight, regaining muscle mass. And, with my wife, we discussed and kind of like gave me this goal of like, let's try to get to 150. That's like my benchmark. And everything we discussed today, is going to help me get to that point. Like, I know it's going to take a long time because, it took me, like, I lost 30 pounds in about like 2.5 months, which is very rapid weight loss. And I was barely eating. So it's like, I don't expect to regain that weight in that amount of time. It might take 4 6 months. I don't know. I don't want to have any expectations, but that is kind of the goal that I have in mind. So at least I have something to, aim for. Not coughing anymore is also something to aim for. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, on that joyful note, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.